Namaste, Assalamu alaikum, Shalom, Mir, Pranam, Satnam, Ni hao, Buenos dias, Buenos tardes, Konnichiwa, Sabadikra, Esh Agape, Aquaba, Welcome. What up, though? This is the recitation of Tobadiko Kadao, portion numero 10, Miketz, that includes within Torah, Parsha Miketz, which is Bereshit 41:1 a 44:16. From the Chandogya Upanishad, it is Kanda 1:12. From the Bhagavad Gita, it is the Vibhuti Yogahe, numero 10. From the Tao Te Ching, it is chapter 10. From the Lunyu, it is chapter 10. From the Digha Nikaya, it is the Jaliya Sutta, numero 7. From the Dhammapada, it is the Danda Vaga numero 10. From the Gospels, it is Matthew chapters 19 a 20. From the Quran, it is Surah Yunus numero 10. And from the Gayana Shagoa, it is articles 99 a 177, which concludes the reading of Gayana Shagoa for this yearly cycle. Bismillah ar-Rahmani ar-Rahim. Allah wabha. Dao ka dao fei chong dao. Min ka min fei chong min. Ja Rastafari. Deus nos te quies in cele santa facita nomen tuum. Vahe Guru Satnam. Baruchata Elohim. Eloheinu melech halam borei pori agafen. Amen. Baruch ata Elohim, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kezanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu la'asok b'davar Torah. Amen. Kyrie eleison, sevamastu save jagadehi, save sata bhavantu sukhitata. Fagabiyam. Aquaba upendo na amane. Vikiri inesinami, chinta dam permian, lebavamiam, womanjaka. Ubuntu shabana fakitka. Shashem, Kamo Sanida, Domo Aragato, Pelamayela Wakantokan, Tokadoka Shingun, Gomandigan. God, we thank you for all that you bless us. Ata Jam Yad Yata Afanami. Vado, Aho, Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Amen. Torah, Miketz. It came to pass at the end of 2 full years that Pharaoh was dreaming, and behold, he was standing by the Nile. And behold, from the Nile were coming up 7 cows of handsome appearance and robust flesh, and they pastured in the marshland. And behold, 7 other cows were coming up after them from the Nile, of ugly appearance and lean of flesh, and they stood beside the cows which were on the Nile bank. And the cows of ugly appearance and lean of flesh devoured the 7 cows that were of handsome appearance and healthy. Then Pharaoh awoke. And he fell asleep and dreamed again. And behold, 7 ears of grain were growing on one stalk, healthy and beneficial. And behold, 7 ears of grain, thin and beaten by the east wind, were growing up after them. And the thin ears of grain swallowed up the 7 healthy and full ears of grain. Then Pharaoh awoke, and behold, a dream. Now it came to pass in the matin that his spirit was troubled. So he sent and called all the necromancers of Egypt and all its sages. And Pharaoh related to them his dream, but no one interpreted them for Pharaoh. Now the chief cupbearer spoke with Pharaoh, saying, I called to mind my faults today. Pharaoh was angry with his servants, and he put me in prison in the house of the chief slaughterer, me and the chief baker. And we dreamed a dream on the same night, I and he, each one according to the interpretation of his dream, we dreamed. And there with us was a Hebrew lad, a slave of the chief slaughterer, and we told him, and he interpreted our dreams for us. For each of us he interpreted according to his dream. And it came to pass that just as he had interpreted, so it was. Me he restored to my position, and him he hanged. So Pharaoh sent and called Joseph, and they rushed him from the dungeon, and he shaved and changed his clothes, and he then came to Pharaoh. And Pharaoh said to Joseph, I have dreamed a dream, and there is no interpreter for it. But I have heard it said of you that you understand a dream to interpret it. And Joseph replied to Pharaoh, saying, Not I. Elohim will give an answer that will bring peace to Pharaoh. And Pharaoh said to Joseph, In my dream, behold, I was standing on the bank of the Nile, and behold, 7 cows of robust flesh and handsome form were ascending from the Nile, and they pastured in the marshland. And behold, 7 other cows were ascending after them, emaciated and of very ugly form, and with meager flesh. I have not seen such ugly ones throughout the entire land of Egypt. And the meager and ugly cows devoured the first 7 healthy cows. And they went inside them, but it was not known that they had gone inside of them, for their appearance was as ugly as in the beginning. Then I awoke. Then I saw in my dream, and behold, 7 ears of grain were growing on one stalk, full and beneficial. And behold, 7 ears of grain, hardened, thin, and beaten by the east wind, were growing up after them. And the thin ears of grain swallowed up the 7 beneficial ears of grain. I told the necromancers, but no one tells me its meaning. And Joseph said to Pharaoh, Pharaoh's dream is one. What Elohim is doing, Elohim has told Pharaoh. The 7 beneficial cows are 7 years, and the 7 beneficial ears of grain are 7 years. It is one dream. And the 7 meager and ugly cows coming up after them are 7 years, and the 7 empty ears of grain beaten by the east wind will be 7 years of famine. It is this matter that I have spoken to Pharaoh, but what Elohim is about to do, Elohim has shown Pharaoh. Behold, 7 years are coming, great plenty throughout all the land of Egypt. And 7 years of famine will arise after them, and all the plenty will be forgotten in the land of Egypt, and the famine will destroy the land. And the plenty will not be known because of that famine to follow, for it will be very severe. And concerning the repetition of the dream to Pharaoh twice, that is because the matter is ready to emanate from Elohim, and Elohim is hastening to execute it. So now let Pharaoh seek out an understanding and wise man, and appoint him over the land of Egypt. Let Pharaoh do this, and appoint officials over the land, and prepare the land of Egypt during the 7 years of plenty. And let them collect all the food of these coming beneficial years, and let them gather the grain under Pharaoh's hand, food in the cities, and keep it. Thus the food will remain as a reserve for the land for the 7 years of famine, which will be in the land of Egypt, so that the land will not be destroyed by the famine. The matter pleased Pharaoh and all his servants. So Pharaoh said to his servants, Will we find anyone like this, a man in whom there is the spirit of Elohim? Then Pharaoh said to Joseph, Since Elohim has let you know all this, there is no one as understanding and wise as you. You shall be appointed over my household, and through your command all my people shall be nourished. Only with the throne will I be greater than you. So Pharaoh said to Joseph, Look, I have appointed you over the entire land of Egypt. And Pharaoh removed his ring from his hand and placed it on Joseph's hand, and he attired him with raiment of fine linen, and he placed the golden chain around his neck. And he had him ride in his chariot of second rank, and they called out before him, This is the king's patron, appointing him over the entire land of Egypt. And Pharaoh said to Joseph, I am Pharaoh, and besides you no one may lift his hand or his foot in the entire land of Egypt. And Pharaoh named Joseph Zephanat Paneach, and he gave him Asenat, the daughter of Potipharah, the governor of On, for a wife. And Joseph went forth over the land of Egypt. And Joseph was 30 years old when he stood before Pharaoh, the king of Egypt. And Joseph went out from before Pharaoh and passed through the entire land of Egypt. And in the 7 years of plenty, the inhabitants of the land gathered food by handfuls. And he collected all the food of the 7 years that was in the land of Egypt. And he placed food in the cities, the food of the field surrounding the city he put within it. And Joseph gathered grain like the sand of the sea in great abundance, until one stopped counting, because there was no number. And to Joseph were born 2 sons before the year of the famine set in, whom Asenat, the daughter of Potipharah, the governor of On, bore to him. And Joseph named the firstborn Manasseh, for Elohim has caused me to forget all my toil and all my father's house. And the second one he named Ephraim, for Elohim has made me fruitful in the land of my affliction. And the 7 years of plenty that were in the land of Egypt were finished, and the 7 years of famine began, as Joseph had said. And there was famine in all the lands, but throughout the land of Egypt there was bread. When the entire land of Egypt hungered, the people cried out to Pharaoh for bread. But Pharaoh said to all the Egyptians, Go to Joseph, what he tells you, do. Now the famine spread over all the face of the land, and Joseph opened all the storehouses in which there was grain, and he sold it to the Egyptians, and the famine intensified in the land of Egypt. And all the inhabitants of the land came to Egypt to Joseph to purchase, for the famine had intensified in the entire land. Yaakov saw that there was grain being sold in Egypt. So Yaakov said to his sons, Why do you appear satiated? And he said, Behold, I have heard that there is grain being sold in Egypt. Go down there and buy some for us from there, so that we may live and not die. Joseph's 10 brothers went down to buy grain from Egypt. But Joseph's brother Benjamin, Yaakov did not send with his brothers, because he said, lest misfortune befall him. So the sons of Israel came to purchase amongst those who came, for the famine was in the land of Canaan. Now Joseph was the ruler over the land. It was he who sold grain to the entire populace of the land, and Joseph's brothers came and prostrated themselves to him, and with their faces to the ground. And Joseph saw his brothers, and he recognized them, but he made himself a stranger to them, and he spoke to them harshly. And he said to them, Where do you come from? And they said, From the land of Canaan, to purchase food. Now Joseph recognized his brothers, but they did not recognize him. And Joseph remembered the dreams that he had dreamed about them, and he said to them, You are spies. You have come to see the nakedness of the land. And they said to him, No, my master, your servants have come to buy food. We are all sons of one man, we are honest. Your servants were never spies. But he said to them, No, but you have come to see the nakedness of the land. And they said, We, your servants, are 12 brothers, the sons of one man in the land of Canaan. And behold, the youngest is with our father today, and one is gone. And Joseph said to him, This is just what I have spoken to you, saying, You are spies. With this shall you be tested. By Pharaoh's life you shall not leave this place until your youngest brother comes here. Said one of you, and let him fetch your brother, and you will be in prison, so that your words will be tested, whether truth is with you, or if not. As Pharaoh lives, you are spies. And he put them in prison for 3 days. On the third day Joseph said to them, Do this and live. I fear Elohim. If you are honest, your one brother will be confined in your prison, and you go bring the grain for the hunger of your households. And bring your youngest brother to me, so that your words may be verified, and you will not die. And they did so. And they said to one another, Indeed, we are guilty for our brother, that we witnessed the distress of his soul when he begged us, and we did not listen. That is why this trouble has come upon us. And Reuben answered them, saying, Didn't I tell you, saying, Do not sin against the lad? But you did not listen. Behold, his blood too is being demanded. They did not know that Joseph understood, for the interpreter was between them. And he turned away from them and wept, then returned to them and spoke to them. And he took Shimon from amongst them and imprisoned him before their eyes. And Joseph commanded, and they filled their vessels with grain, and he commanded to return their money into each one's sack, and give them provisions for the journey, and he did so for them. And they loaded their grain upon their donkeys, and they went away from there. The one opened his sack to give fodder to his donkey at the lodging place, and he saw his money there, what it was returned. And he saw his money, there it was, in the mouth of his sack. And he said to his brothers, My money has been returned, and indeed here it is in my sack. Their hearts sank, and trembling they turned to one another, saying, What is this that Elohim has done to us? And they came to Yaakov their father to the land of Canaan, and they told him all that had befallen them, saying, The man, the master of the land, spoke to us harshly, and he accused us of spying on the land. And we said to him, We are honest, we were never spies. We are 12 brothers, the sons of our father, one is gone, and today the youngest is with our father in the land of Canaan. And the man, the master of the land, said to us, With this I will know that you are honest. Leave one of your brothers with me, and what is needed for the hunger of your household take and go. And bring your youngest brother to me, so that I will know that you are not spies, that you are honest. I will give you your brother, and you may travel around in the land. And it came to pass that they were emptying their sacks, and behold, each one's bundle of money was in his sack. They saw the bundles of their money, they and their father, and they became frightened. And their father Yaakov said to them, You have bereaved me. Joseph is gone, and Shimon is gone, and you want to take Benjamin. All these troubles have come upon me. And Reuben spoke to his father, saying, You may put my 2 sons to death if I don't bring him, Benjamin, to you. Put him into my hands, and I will return him to you. But he, Yaakov, said, My son shall not go down with you, because his brother is dead, and he alone is left. And if misfortune befalls him on the way you are going, you will bring down my gray head into sorrow to the grave. But the hunger was severe in the land, and it came to pass, when they finished eating the grain that they had brought from Egypt, that their father said to them, Go back and buy us a little food. But Yehudah spoke to him, saying, The man warned us repeatedly, saying, You shall not see my face, if your brother is not with you. If you send our brother with us, we will go down and buy food for you. But if you do not send him, we will not go down, because the man said to us, You shall not see my face, if your brother is not with you. And Israel said, "Why have you harmed me by telling the man that you have another brother?" They said, "The man asked about us and about our family, saying, 'Is your father still alive? Do you have a brother?' And we told him according to these words. Could we have known that he would say, 'Bring your brother down'?" And Yehuda said to Israel his father, "Send the lad with me, and we will get up and go, and we will live and not die, both we and you, and also our young. I will guarantee him from my hand. You can demand him. If I do not bring him to you and stand him up before you, I will have sinned against you forever. For had we not tarried, by now we would have already returned twice." So Israel therefore said to them, "If so, then do this: take some of the choice products of the land in your vessels, and take down to the man as a gift a little balm and a little honey, wax and lotus and pistachios and almonds, and take double the money in your hands, and the money that was returned in the mouth of your sacks you shall return in your hands. Perhaps it was an error. And take your brother and get up and go back to the man. And may Elohim Almighty grant you compassion before the man, and he will release you to you your other brother in Benjamin. And as for me, as I am bereaved, I am bereaved." So the men took this gift, and they took double the money in their hands and Benjamin, and they got up and went down to Egypt and stood before Joseph. When Joseph saw Benjamin with them, he said to the overseer of his house, "Bring the men into the house, and give orders to slaughter an animal and to prepare, for the men will eat with me at lunch." And the man did as Joseph had said, and the man brought the men into Joseph's house. Now the men were frightened because they had been brought into Joseph's house, and they said, "On account of the money that came back in our sacks at first, we are brought to roll upon us, and to fall upon us, and to take us as slaves and donkeys as well." So they drew near the man who was over Joseph's house, and they spoke to him at the entrance of the house. And they said, "Please, my master, we came down at first to purchase food. And it came to pass, when we came to the lodging place, that we opened our sacks, and behold, each man's money was in the mouth of his sack, and we returned it in our hands. And we brought down other money in our hands to purchase food. We do not know who put our money into our sacks." And he said, "Peace to you, fear not. Your God has, and the God and Elohim of your father gave you a treasure in your sacks. Your money came to me." And he brought Shimon out to them. Then the man brought the brothers, into Joseph's house, and he gave them water, and they washed their feet, and he gave fodder to their donkeys. And they prepared the gift until Joseph would come at lunchtime, for they heard that there they would eat bread. And Joseph came home, and they brought him the gift that was in their hands into the house, and they prostrated themselves to him to the ground. He inquired after all their well-being, and he said to them, "Is your elderly father, whom you mentioned well, is he still alive?" And they said, "Your servant, our father, is well, and he is still alive." And they bowed and prostrated themselves. And he lifted his eyes and saw Benjamin, his brother, the son of his mower. And he said, "Is your little brother whom you told me about? Is this your little brother whom you told me about?" And he said, may Elohim favor you, my son." And Joseph hastened, for his mercy was stirred towards his brother, and he wanted to weep. So he went into the room and wept there. And he washed his face and came out, and he restrained himself and said, "Serve the food." And they set for him separately, and for them separately, and for the Egyptians who ate with him separately, because the Egyptians could not eat food with the Hebrews, because it is an abomination to the Egyptians. They sent before him the firstborn according to his age, and the youngest according to his age. And the men looked at each other in astonishment. And he had portions brought to them from before him, and Benjamin's portion was 5 times as large as the portions of any of them, and they drank and became intoxicated with him. Then he commanded the overseer of his house, saying, "Fill the men's sacks with food as much as they can carry, and put each man's money into the mouth of his sack. And my goblet, the silver goblet, put into the mouth of the sack of the youngest, and his purchase money." And he did according to Joseph's word, which he had spoken. The matan became light, and the men were sent on their way, and their donkeys. They had exited the city, but had not gone distantly, when Joseph said to the overseer of his house, "Get up, pursue the men, and when you overtake them, say to them, 'Why have you repaid benevolence with evil? Is not this the one my master drinks from? Why, even the celestial, he even divines with it.'" You have done evil by the way you have acted. He overtook them, and he said these words to them. And they said, Why should my master say such words as these? Distant be it from your servants to do a thing like this. Behold, the money we found in the mouth of our sacks we returned to you from the land of Canaan. How could we steal from your master's house silver or gold? Whichever one of your servants with whom it is found shall die, and also we will be slaves to the master. And also we will be slaves to my master. And he said, Now indeed, so it is as you have spoken. But the one with whom it is found shall be my slave, and you shall be cleared. So they hastened, and each one lowered his sack to the ground, and each one opened his sack. He searched, he started with the eldest and finished with the youngest, and the goblet was found in Benjamin's sack. So they rent their garments, and each one loaded his donkey, and they returned to the city. And Yehud and his brothers came to Joseph's house, and he was still there, and they fell before him upon the ground. And Joseph said to them, What is this deed that you have committed? Why don't you know that a person like me practices divination? And Yehuda said, What shall we say to my master? What shall we speak? And how shall we exonerate ourselves? Elohim has found your servants' iniquity. Behold, we are my master's servants. We are my master's servants, both we and the one in whose possession the goblet has been found. But he said, Distant be it from me to do this. The man in whose possession the goblet was found, he shall be my slave. But as for you, go up in peace to your father. Yud-Gitu, the Chandogya Upanishad, Kanda 1, 12. Now follows the Yud-Gita of the dogs. One day Vaka, the son of Dalbya, or as he was also called Glava, the son of Mitra, went forth to study the Vedas. A white dog appeared before him. Other dogs gathering around him said to him, the white dog, Revered sir, please sing for us so that we may obtain food. We are hungry. He, the white dog, said to them, Come to me here tomorrow, mañana matin. Vaka, the son of Dalbya, or as he was also called Glava, the son of Mitra, kept watch. And just as the priests move along, holding to one another when they are about to sing honors with the Vahish Pavamana hymn, so did the dogs move along. Then they sat down and uttered the syllable hymn. Om, let us eat. Om, let us drink. Om, let the soleil, that is the luminous celestial Deva, giver of rain, Varuna, the master of creatures, Prajapati, bring food here. Now a blessing with the sun, the soleil. O master of food, bring food here, bring it here. Om. The Bhagavad Gita Vibhuti Yogahe, numero 10. Sri Krishna says, Once further, O mighty Arjuna, listen to my supreme word, which I, from a desire for your well-being, will impart to you to your great delight. Neither the host of angels nor the great sages know my origin, for in all respects I am the source of the angels and the sages. He who knows that I am unborn and without a beginning, and also that I am the supreme master of the worlds, he undiluted amongst the living beings is freed from all sins. Intelligence, knowledge, non-delusion, forbearance, truth, self-control, and calmness, pleasure and pain, birth and death, fear and fearlessness, non-injury, equanimity, contentment, austerity, charity, fame, and noble quiet. These different attributes of beings arise from me alone. The 7 great sages and the 4 Manus of ancient times, endowed with my power, were born of my mind and from them have sprung all the creatures in the world. He who knows in truth this glory and power of mine acquires unshakable devotion. Of this there is no doubt. I am the origin of all. From me all things evolve. The wise know this and worship me with all their heart, with their thought fixed on me, with their life absorbed in me, enlightening one another about me and always conversing about me. They derive satisfaction and delight. On those who are ever devoted to me and worship me with love, I bestow the yoga of understanding by which they come to me. Solely out of compassion for them, I, dwelling in their hearts, dispel with the shining lamp of wisdom the darkness born of ignorance. Arjuna says, You are the supreme Brahman, the supreme abode, the supreme holiness. All the sages have declared you to be the eternal self-luminous being, the first of the angels, unborn and all-pervading. Likewise have the sacred sages Narada, Asita, Devala, and Vyasa proclaimed. So too you have said unto me. I hold as true all that you have said to me, O Kesava. Verily neither the angels nor the demons, O Master, know your manifestations. You alone know yourself through yourself, O Supreme Being, O Creator of all beings, O Master of all beings, O God of angels, O Ruler of the world. You should indeed tell me in full of your holy powers, whereby you pervade all the worlds and abide in them. How may I know you, O Yogi, by constant meditation? In what various things, O Master, are you to be contemplated by me? Tell me once further in detail, O Janardana, of your yoga powers and glories, for I am never filled with hearing your ambrosial words. Sri Krishna says, I will tell you now of my holy attributes, O best of the Kurus, only of those that are preeminent, for there is no limit to my extent. I am the Sarvogita seed in the hearts of all creatures. I am the beginning, the middle, and the end of all beings. Of the Adityas, I am Vishnu. Of lights, I am the radiant Soleil. I am Marichi of the Maruts. And amongst the orbs of night, I am the moon. Of the Vedas, I am the Saman. Of the angels, I am Indra. Of the senses, I am the mind. And of living beings, I am intelligence. Of the Ruvas, I am Siva. Of the Yakshas and Rakshasas, I am Kuvera. Of the Vasus, I am fire. And of mountains, I am Meru. Of priests, O Partha, know me to be the chief, Brihaspati. Of generals, I am Skanda. Of reservoirs of water, I am the ocean. Of the great rishis, I am Brigu. And of words, I am the monosyllable Om. Of sacrifices, I am the sacrifice of Japa. Of immovable things, I am the Himalaya. Of all trees, I am the Ashvata. And of the Devarshis, I am Narada. Of the Gandharvas, I am Chitarata. Of the perfected ones, I am the sage of Kapila. Of weapons, I am the thunderbolt. Of cows, I am Kamaduk. I am Kandarpa, the cause of offspring. And of serpents, I am Vasuki. Of horses, know me to be Uchesh Srava, suborn of the Amrita. Of matchly elephants, I am Airavata. And of men, I am the monarch. Of the Nagas, I am Ananta. Of the dwellers in water, I am Varuna. Of the Pitris, I am Aryama. And of those that practice self-control, I am Yama. Of the Daityas, I am Prahlada. Of measures, I am time. Of beasts, I am the lion. And of birds, I am Garuda. Of purifiers, I am the wind. Of warriors, I am Rama. Of fishes, I am the shark. And of rivers, I am the Ganges. Of created things, I am the beginning and the end, and also the middle, O Arjuna. Of all sciences, I am the science of the self, and in disputation, I am reason. Of letters, I am the letter A, and of compound words, I am the Dvanda. I myself am inexhaustible time, and I am the dispenser facing everywhere. I am all-seizing death. I am the prosperity of those who are to be prosperous, and of female powers, I am glory, fortune, speech, memory, intelligence, constancy, and forbearance. Of the Saman hymns, I am the Brihasaman, and of the meters, I am the Gayatri. Of months, I am Margashirsha, and of seasons, I am the flowery spring. I am the gambling of cheats, I am the vigor of the strong. I am victory, I am effort, I am the quality of Sattva and the benevolent. Of the Yadavas, I am Vasudeva, and of the Pandavas, I am Arjuna. Of the sages, I am Vyasa, and of seers, I am Usanas the seer. I am the rod of those that chastise, and the statesmanship of those that conquer. Of secret things, I am silence, and of the wise, I am the wisdom. And that which is the seat of all beings, that am I, O Arjuna. There is no being, whether moving or unmoving, that can exist without me. There is no end of my divine manifestations, O dreaded Arjuna. This is but a partial statement by me of the multiplicity of my attributes. Whatever glorious or beautiful or mighty being exists anywhere, know that it is sprung from but a spark of my splendor. But what need is there of your acquiring this detailed knowledge, O Arjuna? With a single fragment of myself, I stand supporting the whole universe. Tao Te Ching, número 10. In holding the soul and embracing oneness, can one be steadfast without straying? In concentrating the energy and reaching relaxation, can one be like an infant? In cleaning away the worldly view, can one be without imperfections? In loving the people and ruling the nation, can one be without manipulation? In the heavenly gates opening and closing, can one hold to the feminine principle? In understanding clearly all directions can one be without intellectuality, bearing it, rearing it, bearing without possession, achieving without arrogance, raising without domination. This is called the mystic virtue. Lunyu número 10. In the local community, Kung Fuzi is submissive and seems to be inarticulate. In the ancestral temple and at court, though fluent, he does not speak lightly. At court, when speaking with counselors of low rank, he is affable. When speaking with counselors of upper rank, he is frank, though respectful. In the presence of his master, his bearing, though respectful, is composed. When he is summoned by his master to act as usher, his face takes on a serious expression and his step becomes brisk. When he bows to his colleagues, stretching out his hands to the left or to the right, his robes follow his movements without being disarranged. He goes forward with quickened steps as though he is gliding on wings. After the withdrawal of the guest, he invariably reports the guest has stopped looking back. On going through the outer gates to his master's court, he draws himself in as though the entrance was too small to admit him. When he stands, he does not occupy the center of the gateway. When he walks, he does not step on the threshold. When he goes past the station of his master, his face takes on a serious expression, his step becomes brisk, and his words seem further On entering the ducal gate, he bends his body as if it is not tall enough to admit him. Standing, he does not do so in the middle of the gateway. Walking, he does not tread the threshold. When passing the throne, he changes his countenance and quickens his steps, and he seems sparing of words. When lifting the lower hem of his robe to ascend the audience hall, he bends his body and abates his breath as if he has stopped breathing altogether. On coming out and descending the first step, he relaxes his features, looking cheerful. Having descended to the foot of the stairway, he hastens forward like a bird unfolding its wings. On regaining his position, he looks reverent. When he holds the jade tablet, he draws himself in as though its weight is too much for him. He holds the upper part of the tablet as though he is bowing. He holds the lower part of the tablet as though he is ready to hand over a gift. His expression is solemn as though in fear of trembling, and his feet are constrained as though following a marked line. When making a presentation, his expression is genial. At a private audience, he is relaxed. The gentleman avoids utilizing dark purple and maroon colored silk for lapels, for lapels and cuffs. Red and violet colored silks are not utilized for informal dress. When in the heat of summer, he wears an unlined robe made of either fine or coarse material. He invariably wears it over an underrobe to set it off. Under a black jacket, he wears lambskin. Under an undyed jacket, he wears fawn skin. Under a yellow jacket, he wears fox fur. His informal fur coat is long but with a short right sleeve. He invariably has a night robe which is half as long again as he is tall. their fur being thick pelts on the fox and the badger were utilized as rugs. Once the period of grieving is over, he places no restrictions on the kind of ornament that he wears. Other than skirts for ceremonial occasions, everything else is made up from cut portions. Lambskin coats and black caps are not utilized on visits of condolence. On New Year's Day, he invariably goes to court in court dress. In periods of purification, he invariably wears a house robe made of the cheaper sort of material. In periods of purification, he invariably changes to a further austere diet, and when at home, he does not sit in his usual place. He does not eat his fill of polished rice, nor does he eat his fill of finely minced meat. He does not eat rice that has gone sour, or fish or meat that has spoiled. He does not eat food that has gone off color, or food that has a bad smell. He does not eat food that is not properly prepared, nor does he eat except at the proper times. He does not eat food that has not been properly cut up, nor does he eat unless the proper sauce is available. Even when there is plenty of meat, he avoids eating further meat than rice. Only in the case of wine does he not set himself a rigid limit. He simply never drinks to the point of becoming confused. He does not consume wine or dried meat bought from a shop. Even when he does not have the side dish of ginger cleared from the table, he does not eat further than was proper. After assisting at an offering at his master's place, he does not keep his portion of the offertory meat overnight. In other cases, he does not keep the offertory meat for further than 3 days. Once it is kept beyond 3 days, he no longer eats it. He does not converse at meals, nor does he talk in bed. Even when a meal consists only of coarse rice and vegetable broth, he invariably makes an offering from them, and invariably does so solemnly. He does not sit unless his mat is straight. When drinking at a village gathering, he leaves as soon as those carrying walking sticks have left. When the villagers are exorcising evil spirits, he stands in his court robes on the eastern steps. When making inquiries after someone in another state, he bows to the ground twice before sending off the messenger. When Kong Tzu sends a gift of medicine, Kong Fuzi bows his head to the ground before accepting it. However, he says, not knowing its properties, I dare not taste it. The stables caught fire. The master, on returning from court, asks, is anyone hurt? He does not ask about the horses. When his master gives a gift of cooked food, the first thing he invariably does is to taste it after having adjusted his mat. When his master gives him a gift of uncooked food, he invariably cooks it and offers it to the ancestors. When his master gives him a gift of a live animal, he invariably rears it. At the table of his master, when his master has made an offering before the meal, he invariably starts with the rice first. During an illness, when his master pays him a visit, he lies with his head to the east, with his court robes draped over him and his grand sash trailing over the side of the bed. When summoned by his master, he sets off without waiting for horses to be yoked to his carriage. When he goes inside the grand temple, he asks questions about everything. Whenever a friend dies who has no kin to whom his body could be taken, he says, let him be given a funeral from my house. Even when a gift from a friend is a carriage and horses, since it lacks the solemnity of offertory meat, he does not bow to the ground. When in bed, he does not lie like a corpse, nor does he sit in the formal manner of a guest when by himself. When he meets a bereaved person in grieving dress, even though it is someone he is on familiar terms with, he invariably assumes a solemn expression. When he meets someone wearing a ceremonial cap or someone blind, even though they are well known to him, he invariably shows them respect. On passing a person dressed as a griever, he leans forward with his hands on the crossbar of his carriage and shows respect. He acts in a similar manner towards a person carrying official documents. When a sumptuous feast is brought on, he invariably assumes a solemn expression and rises to his feet. When there is a sudden clap of thunder or a violent wind, he invariably assumes a solemn attitude. When climbing into a carriage, he invariably stands squarely and grasps the mounting cord. When in the carriage, he does not turn towards the inside, nor does he shout or point. Startled, the bird rises up and circles round before alighting. He says, The female pheasant on the mountain bridge bow timely her action how timely her action is, how timely her action is. Tulu cups one hand in the other in a gesture of respect towards the bird, which, flapping its wings 3 times, flies away. Digha Nikaya, Jaliya Sutta número 7. The Blessed One was once, thus have I heard. The Blessed One was once staying at Vasali at the gabled hall in the great wood. Now at that time a number of Brahmins who had been sent on pressing business of one kind or another from Kosali and Magadha were lodging at Vasali, and they heard the news. They say that the Samana Gotama of the Sakya clan, who went out from a Sakya family to adopt the religious life, is now staying at Vasali at the gabled hall in the great wood. Now regarding that Venerable Gotama, such is the high reputation that has been noised abroad. That Blessed One is an Arahat, a fully awakened one, abounding in wisdom and benevolence, happy, who knows all the worlds, unsurpassed as a guide to living beings willing to be led, a teacher for angels and men, a Blessed One, a Buddha. He by himself thoroughly knows and sees, as it were, face to face, this universe, including the worlds above of the angels, the Brahmas and the Maras, and the world below with its recluses, Brahmas, its princes and peoples, and having known it, he makes his knowledge known to others. The truth, lovely in its origin, lovely in its progress, lovely in its consummation, doth he proclaim both in the spirit and in the letter. The higher life doth he make known, and in all its fullness and in all its purity. And beneficial is it to pay visits to arahats like that. So those Brahmins from Kosala and Magadha went out to the great wood and to the gabled hall. Now at that time the Venerable Nagita was acting as the personal attendant on the Blessed One. And they went to him and said, "Where is it, Nagita, that the Venerable Gotama is lodging now, for we wish to see him? It is not a fitting time, sirs, to call upon the Blessed One. He has retired into solitude." Then they sat down round about, saying, "We will not go away without seeing the Venerable Gotama." And Harelip the Klavi too came to the great wood and to the gabled hall with a retinue of his clan, and going up to the Venerable Nagita, so he saluted him, and reverently standing apart, he said to him, "Where, Venerable Nagita, is the Blessed One now lodging, the Arahat, the Buddha, for we wish to see him?" And on receiving a similar reply, he too sat down apart, saying, "I will not go until I have seen the august one, the Arahat, the Buddha." But Siha the novice came up to the Venerable Nagita and saluted him, and standing reverently apart, he said to him, "These envoys of the Brahmins from Kosala and Magadha, many of them have come, O Kassapa, to call upon the Blessed One, and the Harelip the Lakavi too, with a retinue of his clan, has come to do the same. 'Twere best, O Kassapa, that all this folk should be allowed to see the Blessed One." "Very well, then, Siha, tell the Blessed One yourself." "Very well, sir," said Siha the novice in assent to the Venerable Nagita. And he went where the Blessed One was, and saluted him, and standing reverently apart, he said to him, even as he had said to Nagita, "Very well, Siha, spread out a mat for me in the shade in front of the house." And Siha did so. And the Blessed One came out from the house and sat down, and the Brahmins from Kosala and Magadha exchanged with him the greetings and compliments of politeness and courtesy, and took their seats on one side. And Harelip the Lokapi too also, with the retinue of his clan, bowed down to the Blessed One and seated himself on one side. And when he was thus seated, he addressed the Blessed One and said, "Some few days ago, sir, Sunakata of the Lokavis came to me and said, 'It is only 3 years, Mahali, since I first came under the Blessed One, and I can see heavenly forms pleasant to behold, fitted to satisfy all one's desires, exciting longing in one's heart, but I cannot hear the heavenly sounds like that. Now, sir, are there such heavenly sounds which he could not hear, or have they no existence? They are actual, those heavenly sounds, pleasant, fitted to satisfy one's heart, fitted to satisfy one's desires, exciting longing in one's heart, which he could not hear. They are not things of naught. But what then is that proximate, what the ultimate cause, why he could not hear them, they being thus actual and not things of naught? Suppose a recluse Mahali to have practiced one-sided concentration of mind with the object of seeing such heavenly forms in any one direction, in the east or the south or the west or the north, or above or below or across, and not with object not with the object of hearing such heavenly sounds. Then, since he has practiced one-sided concentration with the one object only in view, he only sees the sights, he hears not the sounds. And why not? Because of the nature of his self-concentration, samadhi. And so also Mahalaya, if he practiced one-sided concentration with the object of hearing in any one direction the heavenly sounds, then and for the same reason he hears the sounds, but he sees not the sights. But suppose Mahalaya, he has practiced self-concentration with the double object in view of seeing and hearing in any one direction those heavenly sights and those heavenly sounds. Then, since he has practiced self-concentration with the double object in view, he both sees the sights and hears the sounds. And why so? Because of the nature of self-concentration. Then, sir, is it for the sake of attaining to the practice of such self-concentration that the brethren lead the religious life under the Blessed One? No, Mahalaya, there are things higher and sweeter than that for the sake of which they do so. And what, sir, may those other things be? In the first place, Mahalaya, brother, by the complete destruction of the three bonds of delusion, of self, doubt, and trust in the efficacy of benevolent works and circumstances and ceremonies, becomes a converted man, one who cannot be reborn in any state of woe, and is assured of attaining to the insight of the stages higher still. That Mahalaya is a condition higher and sweeter for the sake of which the brethren lead the religious life under me. And then further, Mahalaya, brother, by the complete destruction of those three bonds, and by reducing to a minimum lust, ill will, and dullness, becomes a once returner, one who on his first return to this world shall make an end of pain. That Mahalaya is a condition higher and sweeter for the sake of which the brethren lead the religious life under me. And then further, Mahalaya, brother, by the complete destruction of the five bonds that bind people to this world, becomes an inheritor of the highest heavens, there to pass away, thence never to return. That Mahalaya is a condition higher still and sweeter, for the sake of which the brethren lead the religious life under me. And then further, Mahalaya, when a brother, by the destruction of the deadly floods of intoxications, lusts, becomings, delusion, and ignorance, has by himself known and actualized and continues to abide here in this visible world in that emancipation of mind, that emancipation of heart, which is arahatship, that Mahalaya is a condition higher still and sweeter still, for the sake of which the brethren lead the religious life under me. Such Mahalaya are the conditions higher sweeter than seeing heavenly sights and hearing heavenly sounds, for the sake of which the brethren lead the religious life under me. But is there, sir, a path, is there a method for the actualization of these conditions? Yes, Mahalaya, there is. And what, sir, may be that path, what that method? Verily it is this noble eightfold path, that is to say, right views, right aspirations, right speech, right action, right livelihood, right means of livelihood, right effort, right mindfulness, and right ecstasy and self-concentration. This Mahalaya is the path, and this the method for the realization of these conditions. One day, Mahalaya was standing at Kosambi in the Gosita pleasurance. There, two recluses, Mandisa, the wandering mendicant, and Jalila, the pupil of Darapatika, the man with a wooden bowl, came to me and exchanged with me the greetings and compliments of politeness and courtesy, and stood reverently apart. And so standing, they said to me, "How is it then, O Venerable Gotama, is the soul the same thing as the body, or is the soul one thing and the body another?" "Listen then, sirs, and give heed attentively, and I will speak." "Very well, sir," said those two mendicants in assent, and I spake as follows. "Herein, sirs, a Tathagata arises in the world, a worthy one, perfectly enlightened, endowed with clear knowledge and conduct, accomplished, a knower of the world, unsurpassed trainer of men to be tamed, teacher of angels and men, enlightened and exalted. Having realized by his own direct knowledge this world with its angels, its Maras, and its Brahmas, this generation with its recluses and Brahmins, its rulers and people, he makes it known to others. He teaches the Dharma that is benevolent in the beginning, benevolent in the middle, and benevolent in the end. Possessing meaning and phrasing, he reveals the holy life that is fully complete and purified. A householder or a householder's son, or one born into some other family, hears the Dharma. Having heard the Dharma, he gains faith in the Tathagata. Endowed with such faith, he reflects. The household life is crowded, the path of dust going forth is like the open air. It is not easy for one dwelling at home to lead the perfectly complete, perfectly purified holy life, bright as a polished conch. Let me then shave off my hair and beard, put on saffron robes, and go forth from home to homelessness. After some time he abandons his accumulation of wealth, be it large or small. He abandons his circle of relatives, be it large or small. He shaves off his hair and beard, puts on saffron robes, and goes forth from home to homelessness. When he has thus gone forth, he lives restrained by the restraint of the patimoksha, possessed of proper behavior and resort. Having taken up the rules of training, he trains himself in them, seeing danger in the slightest faults. he comes to be endowed with wholesome bodily and verbal action. His livelihood is purified, and he is possessed of conduct. He guards the doors of his sense faculties and is endowed with mindfulness and clear comprehension and is content. And how serves is the bhikshu possessed of virtuous discipline. Herein serves, having abandoned the destruction of life, the bhikshu abstains from the destruction of life. He has laid down the rod and weapon and dwells conscientious, full of kindness, sympathetic for the well-being of all living beings. Having abandoned taking what is not given, he abstains from taking what is not given. Accepting and expecting only what is given, he lives in honesty with a pure mind. Having abandoned in celibacy, he leads the holy life of celibacy. He dwells aloof and abstains from the vulgar practice of sexual intercourse. Having abandoned false speech, he abstains from falsehood. He speaks only the truth. He lives devoted to truth, trustworthy and reliable. He does not deceive anyone in the world. Having abandoned slander, he abstains from slander. He does not repeat elsewhere what he has heard here in order to divide others from the people here, nor does he repeat here what he has heard elsewhere in order to divide these from the people there. Thus he is a reconciler of those who are divided and a promoter of friendships. Rejoicing, delighting, and exulting in concord, he speaks only words that are conducive to concord. Having abandoned harsh speech, he abstains from harsh speech. He speaks only such words as are gentle, pleasing to the ear, endearing, going to the heart, polite, amiable, and agreeable to the many folk. Having abandoned idle chatter, he abstains from idle chatter. He speaks at the right time, speaks what is factual and beneficial, speaks on the Dhamma and the discipline. His words are with treasuring, they are timely, backed by reasons, measured, and connected with the benevolent. He abstains from damaging seed and plant life. He eats only in one part of the day, restraining from food at night and from eating at improper times. He abstains from dancing, singing, instrumental music, and from witnessing unsuitable shows. He abstains from wearing garlands, embellishing himself with scents, and beautifying himself with unguents. He abstains from high and luxurious beds and seats. He abstains from accepting gold and silver. He abstains from accepting uncooked grain, raw meat, women and girls, male and female slaves, goats and sheep, fowl and swine, elephants, cattle, horses, and mares. He abstains from accepting fields and lands. He abstains from running messages and errands. He abstains from buying and selling. He abstains from dealing with false weights, false metals, and false measures. He abstains from the crooked ways of bribery, deception, and fraud. He abstains from mutilating, executing, imprisoning, robbery, plunder, and violence. This too pertains to his virtuous discipline. Whereas some recluses and brahmanas, whilst living on the food offered by the faithful, continually cause damage to seed and plant life, to plants propagated from roots, stems, joints, buds, and seeds, he abstains from damaging seed and plant life. Whereas some recluses and brahmanas, whilst living on the food offered by the faithful, enjoy the utilization of stored up treasures, such as stored up food, drinks, garments, vehicles, bedding, scents, and comestibles, he abstains from the utilization of stored up treasures. Whereas some recluses and brahmanas, whilst living on the food offered by the faithful, attend unsuitable shows, such as shows featuring dancing, singing, or instrumental music, theatrical performances, narrations of legends, music played by hand clapping and cymbals and drums, picture houses, acrobatic performances, combats of elephants, horses, buffaloes, bulls, goats, rams, cocks, and quails, stick fights, boxing, and wrestling, sham fights, roll calls, and battle rage, regimental reviews. He abstains from attending uncivil shows. Whereas some recluses and brahmins, whilst living on food offered by the faithful, indulge in the following games and recreations: Adapata, Dasapada, Akasha, Pariharapata, Santika, Kalika, Gatika, Salakahata, Aka, Panchakira, Pakaka, Mokshakika, Chingulika, Patalaka, Rataka, Danaka, Akarika, Manasika, Yatavaya. He abstains from such games that are a basis for negligence. Whereas some recluses and brahmanas, whilst living on the food offered by the faithful, enjoy the utilization of high and luxurious beds and seats such as spacious couches, thrones with animal figures carved on the supports, long-haired coverlets, multicolored patchwork coverlets, white woolen coverlets embroidered with flowers, quilts stuffed with cotton, woolen coverlets embroidered with animal figures, woolen coverlets with hair on both sides or on one side, bedspreads embroidered with gems, silk coverlets, dance hall carpets, elephant, horse, or chariot rugs, rugs of antelope skins, choice spreads made of Kadali deer hides, spreads with red awnings overhead, couches with red cushions for head and feet. He abstains from the utilization of such high and luxurious beds and seats. Whereas some recluses and brahmins, whilst living on the food offered by the faithful, enjoy the utilization of such devices for embellishing and beautifying themselves as the following: rubbing scented powders into the body, massaging with oils, bathing in perfumed water, kneading the limbs, mirrors, ointments, garlands, scents, unguents, face powders, makeup, bracelets, headbands, decorated walking sticks, ornamented wrappers, medicine tubes, rapiers, solaches, embroidered sandals, turbans, diadems, yak-tail whisks, and long fringed white robes. He abstains from the utilization of such devices for embellishment and beautification. Whereas some recluses and Brahmins, whilst living on the food offered by the faithful, engage in frivolous chatter, such as talk about kings, thieves, and ministers of state, talk about armies, dangers, and wars, talk about food, drink, garments, and lodgings, talk about garlands and scents, talk about relations, vehicles, villages, towns, cities, and countries, talk about women and talk about heroes, street talk and talk by the well, talk about those departed in days gone by, rambling chit-chat, speculations about the world and about the sea, talk about gain and loss. He abstains from such frivolous chatter. Whereas some recluses and Brahmins, whilst living on the food offered by the faithful, engage in wrangling argumentation, saying to one another, "You don't understand this doctrine and discipline. It is I who understand this doctrine and discipline. How can you understand this doctrine and discipline? You're practicing the wrong way. I'm practicing the right way. I am being consistent. You're inconsistent. What should have been said first, you said last. What should have been said last, you said first. What you took so long to think out has been confuted. Your doctrine has been refuted. You're defeated. Go try to save your doctrine or disentangle yourself now if you can." He abstains from such wrangling argumentation. Whereas some recluses and Brahmins, whilst living on the food offered by the faithful, engage in running messages and errands for kings, ministers of state, kachas, Brahmins, householders, or youths who command them. Go here, go there, take this, bring that from there. He abstains from running such messages and errands. Whereas some recluses and Brahmins, whilst living on the food offered by the faithful, engage in scheming, talking, hinting, belittling others, and pursuing gain with gain. He abstains from such kinds of scheming and talking. Whereas some recluses and Brahmins, whilst living on the food offered by the faithful, earn their living by a wrong means of livelihood by such base arts as prophesying long life, prosperity, additionally or the reverse from the marks on a person's limbs, hands, feet, and additionally divining by means of omens and signs, making auguries on the basis of thunderbolts and celestial portents, interpreting ominous dreams, telling fortunes from marks on the body, making auguries from the marks on cloth gnawed by mice, offering fire oblations, offering oblations from a ladle, offering oblations of husks, rice powder, rice grains, ghee, and oil to the angels, offering oblations from the mouth, offering blood offerings to the angels, making predictions based on the fingertips, determining whether the site for a proposed house or garden is propitious or not, making predictions for officers of state, laying demons in a cemetery, laying ghosts, knowledge of charms to be pronounced by one living in an earthen house, snake charming, the poison craft, scorpion craft, rat craft, bird craft, crow craft, foretelling the number of years that a man has to live, reciting charms to give protection from arrows, reciting charms to understand the language of animals. He abstains from such wrong means of livelihood, from such debased arts. Whereas some recluses and Brahmins, whilst living on the food offered by the faithful, earn their living by a wrong means of livelihood by such debased arts as interpreting the significance of the color, shape, and other features of the following items to determine whether they portend fortune or misfortune for their owners: gems, garments, staffs, swords, spears, arrows, bows, other weapons, women, men, boys, girls, slaves, slave women, elephants, horses, buffaloes, bulls, cows, goats, rams, fowl, quails, lizards, earrings, house gables, tortoises, and other animals. He abstains from such wrong means of livelihood, from such debased arts. Whereas some recluses and Brahmins, whilst living on the food offered by the faithful, earn their living by a wrong means of livelihood by such debased arts as making predictions to the effect that the king will march forth, the king will return, our king will attack, and the enemy king will retreat, the enemy king will attack, and our king will retreat. Our king will triumph, and the enemy king will be defeated. The enemy king will triumph, and our king will be defeated. Thus there will be victory for one and defeat for the other. He abstains from such wrong means of livelihood, from such debased arts. Whereas some recluses and Brahmins, while living on the food offered by the faithful, earn their living by a wrong means of livelihood by such debased arts as predicting there will be an eclipse of the moon, an eclipse of the soleil, an eclipse of a constellation. The sun and moon will go on their proper courses. There will be an aberration of the soleil and moon. The constellations will go on their proper courses. There will be an aberration of a constellation. There will be a fall of meteors. There will be a sky blaze. There will be an earthquake. There will be an earth war. There will be a rising and setting, a darkening and brightening of the moon, soleil, and constellations. Such will be the result of the moon's eclipse, such is the result of the soleil's eclipse, and so on down to such will be the result of the rising and setting, darkening and brightening of the moon, soleil, and constellations. He abstains from such wrong means of livelihood, from such debased arts. Whereas some recluses and Brahmins, whilst living on the food offered by the faithful, earn their living by a wrong means of livelihood by such debased arts as predicting there will be abundant rain, there will be a drought, there will be a benevolent harvest, there will be a famine, there will be security, there will be danger, there will be sickness, there will be health. Or they earn their living by accounting, computation, calculation, the composing of poetry, and speculations about the world. He abstains from such wrong means of livelihood, from such debased arts. Whereas some recluses and Brahmins, whilst living on the food offered by the faithful, earn their living by a wrong means of livelihood by such base arts as arranging auspicious dates for marriages, both those in which the bride is brought home and those in which she is sent out, arranging auspicious dates for betrothals and divorces, arranging auspicious dates for the accumulation or expenditure of money, reciting charms to make people lucky or unlucky, rejuvenating the fetuses of abortive women, reciting spells to bind a man's tongue, to paralyze his jaws, to make him lose control over his hands, or to bring on deafness, obtaining irregular answers to questions by means of a mirror, or a girl, or an angel, worshipping the soleil, worshipping Brahma, bringing forth flames from the mouth, invoking the angel of luck. He abstains from such wrong means of livelihood and from such base arts. Whereas some recluses and Brahmas, whilst living on the food offered by the faithful, earn their living by wrong means of livelihood by such base arts as promising gifts to celestials in return for favors, fulfilling such promises, demonology, reciting spells after entering an earthen house, inducing virility and impotence, preparing and consecrating sites for a house, giving ceremonial mouthwashes and ceremonial bathing, offering offertory fires, administering emetics, purgatives, and expectorants and phlegmagogues, administering medicines through the ear and through the nose, administering ointments and counter ointments, practicing fine surgery on the eyes and ears, practicing general surgery on the body, practicing as a children's doctor. He abstains from such wrong means of livelihood, from such debased arts. Sirs, the bhikshu who is thus possessed of virtuous discipline sees no danger anywhere in regards to his restraint by virtuous discipline, just as a head anointed noble warrior who has defeated his enemy sees no danger anywhere from his enemies. So the bhikshu who is thus possessed of virtuous discipline sees no danger anywhere in regards to his restraint by virtuous discipline. Endowed with this noble aggregate of virtuous discipline, he experiences within himself a blameless happiness. In this way, sirs, the bhikshu is possessed of virtuous discipline. Restraint. And how, sirs, does the bhikshu guard the doors of his sense faculties? Herein, sirs, having seen a form with the eye, the bhikshu does not grasp at the sign or the details, since if he were to dwell without restraint over the faculty of the eye, evil, unwholesome states such as covetousness and grief might assail him. He practices restraint, guards the faculty of the eye, and achieves restraint over the faculty of the eye. Having heard a sound with the ear, the bhikshu does not grasp at the sign or the details, since if he were to dwell without restraint over the faculty of the ear, evil, unwholesome states such as covetousness and grief might assail him. He practices restraint, guards the faculty of the ear, and achieves restraint over the faculty of the ear. Having smelled an odor with the nose, the bhikshu does not grasp at the sign or the details, since if he were to dwell without restraint over the faculty of the nose, evil, unwholesome states such as covetousness and grief might assail him. He practices restraint, guards the faculty of the nose, and achieves restraint over the faculty of the nose. Having tasted the flavor with the tongue, the bhikshu does not grasp at the sign or the details, since if he were to dwell without restraint over the faculty of the tongue, evil and unwholesome states such as covetousness and grief might assail him. He practices restraint, guards the faculty of the tongue, and achieves restraint over the faculty of the tongue. Having touched a tangible object with the body, the bhikshu does not grasp at the sign or the details, since if he were to dwell without restraint over the faculty of the body, evil and unwholesome states such as covetousness and grief might assail him. He practices restraint, guards the faculty of the body, and achieves restraint over the faculty of the body. Having cognized a mind object with the mind, the bhikshu does not grasp at the sign or the details, since if he were to dwell without restraint over the faculty of the mind, evil and unwholesome states such as covetousness and grief might assail him. He practices restraint, guards the faculty of the mind, and achieves restraint over the faculty of the mind. Endowed with his noble restraint of the sense faculties, he experiences within himself an unblemished happiness. In this way, sirs, the bhikshu guards the doors of the sense faculties. And how, sirs, is the bhikshu endowed with mindfulness and clear comprehension? Herein, sirs, in going forward and returning, the bhikshu acts with clear comprehension. In looking ahead and looking aside, he acts with clear comprehension. In bending and stretching the limbs, he acts with clear comprehension. In wearing his robes and cloak and utilizing his alms bowl, he acts with clear comprehension. In eating, drinking, chewing, and tasting, he acts with clear comprehension. In defecating, urinating, he acts with clear comprehension. In going, standing, sitting, lying down, waking up, speaking, and remaining silent, he acts with clear comprehension. In this way, sirs, the bhikshu is endowed with mindfulness and clear comprehension. And how, sirs, is the bhikshu content? Herein, sirs, a bhikshu is content with robes to protect his body and alms food to sustain his belly. Wherever he goes, he sets out, taking only his requisites along with him. Just as a bird, wherever it goes, flies with its wings as its only burden, in the same way a bhikshu is content with robes to protect his body and alms food to sustain his belly. Wherever he goes, he sets out, taking only his requisites along with him. In this way, sirs, the bhikshu is content. Endowed with this noble aggregate of virtuous discipline, this noble restraint over the sense faculties, this noble mindfulness and clear comprehension, and this noble contentment, he resorts to a secluded dwelling, a forest, the foot of a tree, a mountain, a glen, a hillside cave, a cremation ground, a jungle grove, the open air, a heap of straw. After returning from his alms round, following his meals, he sits down, crosses his legs, holds his body erect, and sets up mindfulness before him. Having abandoned covetousness for the world, he dwells with a mind free from covetousness. He purifies his mind from covetousness. Having abandoned ill will and hatred, he dwells with a benevolent mind, sympathetic for the well-being of all living beings. He purifies his mind from ill will and hatred. Having abandoned dullness and drowsiness, he dwells perceiving light, mindful and clearly comprehending. He purifies his mind from dullness and drowsiness. Having abandoned restlessness and worry, he dwells at ease within himself with a peaceful mind. He purifies his mind from restlessness and worry. Having abandoned doubt, he dwells as one who has passed beyond doubt, unperplexed about wholesome states. He purifies his mind from doubt. Sirs, suppose a man were to take a loan and apply it to his business, and his business were to succeed so that he could pay back his old debts and would have enough money left over to maintain a wife. He would reflect on this, and as a result, he would become glad and experience joy. Again, sirs, suppose a man were to become sick, afflicted, gravely ill, so that he could not enjoy his food, and his strength would decline. After some time, he would recover from that illness and would enjoy his food and regain his bodily strength. He would reflect on this, and as a result, he would become glad and experience joy. Again, sir, suppose a man were locked up in a prison. After some time, he would be released from prison, safe and secure, with no loss of his possessions. He would reflect on this, and as a result, he would become glad and experience joy. Again, sir, suppose a man were a slave without independence, subservient to others, unable to go where he wants. After some time, he would be released from slavery and gain his independence. He would no longer be subservient to others, but a free man able to go where he wants. He would reflect on this, and as a result, he would become glad and experience joy. Again, sir, suppose a man with wealth and possessions were traveling along a desert road where food was scarce and dangers were many. After some time, he would cross over the desert and arrive safely at a village which is safe and free from danger. He would reflect on this, and as a result, he would become glad and experience joy. In the same way, sirs, when a bhikshu sees that these 5 hindrances are unabandoned within himself, he regards that as a debt, as a sickness, as confinement in prison, as slavery, as a desert road. But when he sees that these 5 hindrances have been abandoned within himself, he regards that as freedom from debt, as benevolent health, as release from prison, as freedom from slavery, as a place of safety. When he sees that these 5 hindrances have been abandoned within himself, gladness arises. When he is glad, and rapture arises. When his mind is filled with rapture, his body becomes tranquil. Tranquil in body, he experiences happiness. Being happy, his mind becomes concentrated. Quite secluded from sense pleasures, secluded from unwholesome states, he enters and dwells in the first jhana, which is accompanied by applied and sustained thought, and filled with rapture and happiness born of seclusion. Now, sirs, when a bhikshu knows thus and sees thus, would that make him ready to take up the subject? Is the soul the same thing as the body, or is the soul one thing and the body another? Yes, it would, sir. But I, sirs, know thus and see thus, and nevertheless I do not say either the one or the other. Further, sirs, with the subsiding of applied and sustained thought, the bhikshu enters and dwells in the second jhana, which is accompanied by internal confidence and unification of mind, is without applied and sustained thought, and is filled with rapture and happiness born of concentration. Now, sirs, when a bhikshu knows thus and sees thus, would that make him ready to take up the subject? Is the soul the same thing as the body, or is the soul one thing and the body another? Yes, it would, sir. But I, sirs, know thus and see thus, and nevertheless I do not say either the one or the other. Further, sirs, with the fading away of rapture, the bhikshu dwells in equanimity, mindful and clearly comprehending, and experiences happiness with the body. Thus he enters and dwells in the third jhana, of which the noble ones declare he dwells happily with equanimity and mindfulness. Now, sirs, when a bhikshu knows thus and sees thus, would that make him ready to take up the subject? Is the soul the same thing as the body, or is the soul one thing and the body another? Yes, it would, sir. But I, sirs, know thus and see thus, and nevertheless I do not say either the one or the other. Further, sirs, with the abandoning of pleasure and pain, and with the previous passing away of joy and grief, the bhikshu enters and dwells in the fourth jhana, which is neither pleasant nor painful, and contains mindfulness, purely purified, fully purified by equanimity. Now, sirs, when a bhikshu knows thus and sees thus, would that make him ready to take up the subject? Is the soul the same thing as the body, or is the soul one thing and the body another? Yes, it would, sir. But I, sirs, know thus and see thus, and nevertheless I do not say either the one or the other. When his mind is thus concentrated, pure and bright, unblemished, free from defects, malleable, wieldy, steady, and attained to imperturbability, he directs and inclines it to knowledge and vision. He understands thus: this is my body, having material form, composed of the 4 primary elements, originating from far and more, built up out of rice and gruel, impermanent, subject to rubbing and pressing, to dissolution and dispersion. And this is my consciousness, supported by it and bound up with it. Now, sirs, when a bhikshu knows thus and sees thus, would that make him ready to take up the subject? The soul is the same thing as the body, or is the soul one thing and the body another? Yes, it would, sir. But I, sirs, know thus and see thus, and nevertheless I do not say either the one or the other. When his mind is thus concentrated, pure and bright, unblemished, free from defects, malleable, wieldy, steady, and attained to imperturbability, he directs and inclines it to creating a mind-made body. From this body he creates another body, having material form, mind-made, complete in all its parts, not lacking any faculties. Now, sirs, when a bhikshu knows thus and sees thus, would that make him ready to take up the subject, is the soul the same thing as the body, or is the soul one thing and the body another? Yes, it would, sir. But I, sirs, know thus and see thus, and nevertheless I do not say either the one or the other. When his mind is thus concentrated, pure and bright, unblemished, free from defects, malleable, wieldy, steady, and attained to imperturbability, he directs and inclines it to the modes of supernormal power. He exercises the various modes of supernormal power. Having been one, he becomes many. Having been many, he becomes one. He appears and vanishes. He goes unimpeded through walls, ramparts, and mountains as if through space. He dives in and out of the earth as if it were water. He walks on water without sinking as if it were earth. Sitting cross-legged, he travels through space like a winged bird, and with his hand he touches and strokes the soleil and the moon, so mighty and powerful. He exercises mastery of the body as distant as the Brahma world. Now, sirs, when a bhikshu knows thus and sees thus, would that make him ready to take up the subject, is the soul the same thing as the body, or is the soul one thing and the body another? Yes, it would, sir. But I, sirs, know thus and see thus, and nevertheless I do not say either the one or the other. When his mind is thus concentrated, pure and bright, unblemished, free from defects, malleable, wieldy, steady, and attained to imperturbability, he directs and inclines it to the sacred ear element. With the sacred ear element, which is purified and surpasses the human, he hears both kinds of sounds, the sacred and the human, those which are distant and those which are near. Now, sirs, when a bhikshu knows thus and sees thus, would that make him ready to take up the subject, is the soul the same thing as the body, or is the soul one thing and the body another? Yes, it would, sir. But I, sirs, know thus and see thus, and nevertheless I do not say either the one or the other. When his mind is thus concentrated, pure and bright, unblemished, free from defects, malleable, wieldy, steady, and attained to imperturbability, he directs and inclines it to the knowledge of encompassing the minds of others. He understands the minds of other beings and persons, having encompassed them with his own mind. He understands a mind with lust as a mind with lust, and a mind without lust as a mind without lust. He understands a mind with hatred as a mind with hatred, and a mind without hatred as a mind without hatred. He understands a mind with delusion as a mind with delusion, and a mind without delusion as a mind without delusion. He understands a contracted mind as a contracted mind, and a distracted mind as a distracted mind. He understands an exalted mind as an exalted mind, and an unexalted mind as an unexalted mind. He understands a surpassable mind as a surpassable mind, and an unsurpassable mind as an unsurpassable mind. He understands a concentrated mind as a concentrated mind, and an unconcentrated mind as an unconcentrated mind. He understands a liberated mind as a liberated mind, and an unliberated mind as an unliberated mind. Now, sirs, when a bhikshu knows thus and sees thus, would that make him ready to take up the subject? Is the soul the same thing as the body, or is the soul one thing and the body another? Yes, it would, sir. But I, sirs, know thus and see thus, and nevertheless I do not say either the one or the other. When his mind is thus concentrated, pure and bright, unblemished, free from defects, malleable, wieldy, steady, and attained to imperturbability, he directs and inclines it to the knowledge of recollecting past lives. He recollects his numerous past lives, that is, 1 birth, 2 births, 3, 4, or 5 births, 10, 20, 30, 40, or 50 births, 100 births, 1,000 births, 100,000 births, many eons of world contraction, many eons of world expansion, many eons of world contraction and expansion. Recollecting, there I had such a name, belonged to such a clan, had such an appearance, such was my food, such my experience of pleasure and pain, such my span of life. Passing away from that state, I re-arose there. There too I had such a name, belonged to such a clan, had such an appearance, such was my food, such my experience of pleasure and pain, such my span of life. Passing away from that state, I re-arose here. Thus he recollects his numerous past lives and their modes and their details. Now, sirs, when a bhikshu knows thus and sees thus, would that make him ready to take up the subject? Is the soul the same thing as the body, or is the soul one thing and the body another? Yes, it would, sir. But I, sirs, know thus and see thus, and nevertheless I do not say either the one or the other. When his mind is thus concentrated, pure and bright, unblemished, free from defects, malleable, wieldy, steady, and attained to imperturbability, he directs and inclines it to the knowledge of the passing away and reappearance of beings. With the sacred eye, which is purified and surpasses the human, he sees beings passing away and reappearing, inferior and superior, beautiful and ugly, fortunate and unfortunate, and he understands how beings fare according to their karma thus. These beings who were endowed with bad conduct of body, speech, and mind, who reviled the noble ones, held wrong views, and undertook actions governed by wrong views, with the breakup of the body after death, have reappeared in the plane of misery, the bad destinations of the lower realms in hell. But these beings who were endowed with benevolent conduct of body, speech, and mind, who did not revile the noble ones, held right views, and undertook actions governed by right views, with the breakup of the body after death, have reappeared in the benevolent destinations in the heavenly world. Thus, with the sacred eye, which is purified and surpasses the human, he sees beings passing away and reappearing, inferior and superior, beautiful and ugly, fortunate and unfortunate, and he understands how beings fare in accordance with their karma. Now, sirs, when a bhikshu knows thus and sees thus, would that make him ready to take up the question, is the soul the same thing as the body, or is the soul one thing and the body another? Yes, it would, sir. But I, sirs, know thus and see thus, and nevertheless I do not say either the one or the other. When his mind is thus concentrated, pure and bright, unblemished, free from defects, malleable, wieldy, steady, and attained to imperturbability, he directs and inclines it to the knowledge of the destruction of the cankers. He understands as it truly is, this is suffering. He understands as it truly is, this is the origin of suffering. He understands as it truly is, this is the cessation of suffering. He understands as it truly is, this is the way leading to the cessation of suffering. He understands as it truly is, these are the cankers. He understands as it truly is, this is the origin of the cankers. He understands as it truly is, this is the cessation of the cankers. He understands as it truly is, this is the way leading to the cessation of the cankers. Knowing and seeing thus, his mind is liberated from the canker of sensual desire, from the canker of existence, from the canker of ignorance. And when it is liberated and knowledge rises, it is liberated. He understands, destroyed his birth, the holy life has been lived, what had to be done has been done, there is nothing further beyond this. Now, sirs, when a bhikshu knows thus and sees thus, would that make him ready to take up the subject? Is the soul the same thing as the body, or is the soul one thing and the body another? Yes, it would, sir. But I, sirs, know thus and see thus, and nevertheless I do not say either the one or the other. Thus spake the Blessed One, and Harelip the Lokavi, pleased at heart, exalted the word of the Blessed One. Dhammapada, Dandavaga, numero 10. All tremble at violence, all fear death. Putting oneself in the place of another, one should not kill nor cause another to kill. All tremble at violence, life is dear to all. Putting oneself in the place of another, one should not kill nor cause another to kill. One who whilst himself seeks happiness oppresses with violence other beings who also desire happiness will not attain happiness hereafter. One who whilst himself seeking happiness does not oppress with violence other beings who also desire happiness will find happiness hereafter. Speak not harshly to anyone, for those thus spoken to might retort. Indeed, angry speech hurts, and retaliation may overtake you. If, like a broken gong, you silence yourself, you have approached nirvana, for vindictiveness is no longer in you. Just as the cowherd drives the cattle to pasture with a staff, so do old age and death drive the life force of beings from existence to existence. When the fool commits evil deeds, he does not recognize their evil nature. The witless man is tormented by his own deeds, like one burned by fire. He who inflicts violence on those who are unarmed and offends those who are inoffensive will soon come upon one of these 10 states: sharp pain or disaster, bodily injury, serious illness, or a derangement of mind, trouble with the government or grave charges, loss of relatives or loss of wealth, or houses destroyed by ravaging fire upon dissolution of the body. That ignorant man is born in hell. Neither going about naked, nor mad in locks, nor filth, nor fasting, nor lying on the ground, nor smearing oneself with ashes and dust, nor sitting on the heels in penance can purify a living being who has not overcome doubt. Even though he be well attired, yet if he is poised, calm, controlled, and established in the holy life, having set aside violence towards all beings, he truly is a holy man, a renunciate, a monk. Only rarer is there a man in this world who, restrained by modesty, avoids reproach, as a thoroughbred horse avoids the whip. Like a thoroughbred horse touched by the whip, be strenuous, be filled with spiritual yearning, by faith and living purity, by faith and virtuous purity, by effort and meditation, by investigation of the truth, by being rich in knowledge and virtue, and by being mindful, destroy this unlimited suffering. Irrigators regulate the waters, fletchers straighten the arrow shafts, carpenters shape wood, and the benevolent control themselves. Matthew 19:20. When Jesus had finished saying these things, he left Galilee and went into the region of Judea to the other side of the Jordan. Large crowds followed him, and he healed them there. Some Pharisees came to him to test him. They asked, "Is it lawful for a man to divorce his wife for any and every reason?" "Haven't you read," he replied, "that at the beginning the Creator made them male and female, and said, 'For this reason a man will leave his far and more and be united to his wife, and the two will become one flesh.' So they are no longer two but one flesh. Therefore what God has joined together, let no one separate." Why then, they asked, did Moshe command that a man give his wife a certificate of divorce and send her away? Jesus replied, Moshe permitted you to divorce your wives because your hearts were hard. But it was not this way from the beginning. I tell you that anyone who divorces his wife except for sexual indecency and marries another woman commits adultery. The disciple said to him, if this is the situation between a husband and wife, it is better not to marry. Jesus replied, not everyone can accept this word, but only those to whom it has been given. For there are eunuchs who were born that way, and there are eunuchs who have been made eunuchs by others, and there are those who choose to live like eunuchs for the sake of the sovereignty of heaven. The one who can accept this should accept it. Then people brought little children to Jesus for him to place his hands on them and pray for them, but the disciples rebuked them. Jesus said, let the little children come to me, and do not hinder them, for the sovereignty of heaven belongs to such as these. When he had placed his hands on them, he went on from there. Just then a man came up to Jesus and asked, Teacher, what holy thing must I do to get eternal life? Why do you ask me about what is holy? Jesus replied, there is only one who is holy. If you want to enter life, keep the commandments. Which ones? He inquired. Jesus replied, you should not murder, you should not commit adultery, you should not steal, you should not give false testimony. Honor your father and mother, and love your neighbor as yourself. All these I have kept, the young man said. What do I still lack? Jesus answered, if you want to be perfect, go, sell your possessions and give to the poor, and you will have treasure in heaven. Then come, follow me. When the young man heard this, he went away sad because he had great wealth. Then Jesus said to his disciples, truly I tell you, it is hard for someone who is rich to enter the sovereignty of heaven. Again, I tell you, it is easier for a camel to go through the eye of a needle than for someone who is rich to enter the sovereignty of God. When the disciples heard this, they were greatly astonished and asked, who then can be saved? Jesus looked at them and said, with men this is impossible, but with God all things are possible. Peter answered him, we have left everything to follow you. What then will there be for us? Jesus said to them, truly I tell you, at the renewal of all things, when the Son of Man sits on his glorious throne, you who have followed me will also sit on 12 thrones, judging the 12 tribes of Israel. And everyone who has left houses or brothers or sisters or far or more or wife or children or fields for my sake will receive 100 times as much and will inherit eternal life. But many who are first will be last, and many who are last will be first. For the sovereignty of heaven is like a landowner who went out early in the matin to hire workers for his vineyard. He agreed to pay them a denarius for the day and sent them into his vineyard. About 9 in the matin he went out and saw others standing in the marketplace doing nothing. He told them, you also go and work in my vineyard, and I will pay you whatever is right. So they went. He went out again at about noon, and about 3 in the afternoon he did the same thing. About 5 in the afternoon he went out and found still others standing around. He asked them, why have you been standing here all day long doing nothing? Because no one has hired us, they answered. He said to them, you also go and work in my vineyard. When evening came, the owner of the vineyard said to his foreman, call the workers and pay them their wages, beginning with the last ones hired and going on to the first. The workers who were hired about 5 in the afternoon came, and each received a denarius. So when those came who were hired first, they expected to receive further, but each one of them also received a denarius. When they received it, they began to grumble against the landowner. These who were hired last worked only 1 hour, they said, and you have made them equal to us who have borne the burden of the work and the heat of the day. But he answered one of them, I am not being unfair to you, friend. Didn't you agree to work for a denarius? Take your pay and go. I want to give the one who was hired last the same as I give you. Don't I have the right to do what I want with my own money? Or are you envious because I am generous? So the last will be first, and the first will be last. Now Jesus was going up to Jerusalem. On the way that he took the 12 aside and said to them, we are going up to Jerusalem, and the Son of Man will be delivered over to the chief priests and the teachers of the law. They will condemn him to death, and will hand him over to the Gentiles to be mocked and flogged and crucified. On the third day he will be raised to life. Then the more of Zebedee's sons came to Jesus with her sons, and kneeling down asked him a favor of him. What is it you want? He asked. She said, grant that one of these 2 sons of mine may sit at your right hand and the other at your left in your kingdom. You don't know what you are asking, said Jesus to them. Can you drink the cup I am going to drink? We can, they answered. Jesus said to them, You will indeed drink from my cup, but to sit at my right hand or left is not for me to grant. These places belong to those for whom they have been prepared by my Creator. When the 10 heard about this, they were indignant with the 2 brothers. Jesus called them together and said, You know that the rulers of the Gentiles master over them, and their high officials exercise authority over them. Not so with you. Instead, whoever wants to become great amongst you must be your servant, and whoever wants to be first must be your slave. Just as the Son of Man did not come to be served, but to serve and to give his life as a ransom for many. As Jesus and his disciples were leaving Jericho, a large crowd followed him. 2 blind men were sitting by the roadside, and when they heard that Jesus was going by, they shouted, Master, Son of David, have mercy on us. The crowd rebuked them and told them to be quiet, but they shouted out all the further, Master, Son of David, have mercy on us. Jesus stopped and called them. What do you want me to do for you? He asked. Master, they answered, we want our sight. Jesus had compassion on them and touched their eyes. Immediately they received their sight and followed him. Quran, Surah Yunus, número 10. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, in the name of Allah, most gracious, most merciful. Alif Lam Ra. These are the ayats of the Book of Wisdom. Is it a matter of wonderment to men that we have sent our inspiration to a man from amongst themselves, that he should warn mankind of their danger and give the benevolent news to the believers that they have before their Lord the lofty rank of truth? But say the unbelievers, this is indeed an evident sorcerer. Verily your Lord is Allah, who created the heavens and the earth in 6 days and is firmly established on the throne of authority, regulating and governing all things. No intercessor can plead with Allah except after Allah's leave hath been obtained. This is Allah your Lord. Allah therefore serve ye, will ye not receive admonition. To Allah will be your return, all of you. The promise of Allah is true, and sure it is Allah who beginneth the process of creation and repeateth it, that Allah may reward with justice those who believe and work righteousness, but those who reject Allah will have draughts of boiling fluids and a penalty grievous, because they did reject Allah. And it is Allah who made the soleil to be a shining glory and the moon to be a light of beauty, and measured out stages for her, that ye might know the number of years and the count of time. No wise did Allah create this, but in truth and righteousness. Thus doth Allah explain Allah's signs in detail for those who understand. Verily in the alternation of the night and the day, and in all that Allah hath created in the heavens and the earth, are signs for those who fear Allah. Those who rest not their hope on their meeting with us, but are pleased and satisfied with the life of the present. Of those who heed not our signs, their abode is the fire because of the evil they earned. Those who believe and work righteousness, their Lord will guide them because of their faith. Beneath them will flow rivers in gardens of bliss. This will be their cry therein. Glory to thee, O Allah, and peace will be their greeting therein, and the close of their cry will be praised be to Allah, the cherisher and sustainer of the worlds. If Allah were to hasten for men the ill they have earned, as they would fain hasten on the benevolent, then would their respite be settled at once. But we leave those who rest not their hope on their meeting with us in their trespasses, wandering in distraction to and fro. When trouble toucheth the man, he crieth unto us in all postures, lying down on his side, or sitting or standing. But when we have solved his trouble, he passes on his way, as if he had never cried to us for a trouble that touched him. Thus do the deeds of transgressors seem fair in their eyes. Generations before you were destroyed when they did wrong. Their apostles came to them with clear signs, but they would not believe. Thus do we requite those who sin. Then we made you heirs in the land after them, to see how ye would behave. But when our clear signs are rehearsed unto them, those who rest not their hope on their meeting with us say, Bring us a reading other than this, or change this. Say, It is not from me, or of my own accord to change it. I follow not but what is revealed unto me. If I were to disobey my Lord, I should myself fear the penalty of a great day to come. Say, if Allah had so willed, I should not have rehearsed it to you, nor would Allah have made it known to you. A whole lifetime before this have I tarried amongst you. Will ye not then understand? Who doth further wrong than such as forge a lie against Allah, or not deny Allah's signs? But never will prosper those who sin. They serve besides Allah things that hurt them not nor benefit them, and they say, these are our intercessors with Allah. Say, do ye indeed inform Allah of something Allah knows not, in the heavens or on earth? Glory to Allah, and distant is Allah above the partners they ascribe to Allah. Mankind was but one nation, but differed later. Had it not been for a word that went forth before from thy Lord, their differences would have been settled between them. They say, why is not a sign sent down to him from his Lord? Say, the unseen is only for Allah to know. Then wait ye, I too will wait with you. When we make mankind taste of some mercy after adversity hath touched them, behold, they take to plotting against our signs. Say, swifter to plan is Allah. Verily our messengers record all the plots that ye make. Allah it is who enableth you to traverse through land and sea, so that ye even board ships. They sail with them with a favorable wind, and they rejoice thereat. Then comes a stormy wind, and the waves come to them from all sides, and they think they are being overwhelmed. They cry unto Allah sincerely, offering their duty unto Allah, saying, if thou dost deliver us from this, we shall truly show our gratitude. But when Allah delivereth them, behold, they transgress insolently through the earth in defiance of right. O mankind, your insolence is against your own souls, and enjoyment of the life of the present. In the end, to us is your return, and we shall show you the truth of all that ye did. The likeness of the life of the present is as the rain which we send down from the skies. By its mingling arises the produce of the earth, which provides food for men and animals. It grows till the earth is clad with its golden ornaments, and is decked out in beauty. The people to whom it belongs think that they have all powers of disposal over it. There reaches it our command by night or by day, and we make it like a harvest clean mown, as if it had not flourished only the day before. Thus do we explain the signs of in detail for those who reflect. But Allah doth call to the home of peace. Allah doth guide whom Allah pleaseth to a way that is straight. To those who do right is a benevolent reward, yea, further than in measure. No darkness nor shame shall cover their faces. They are companions of the garden. They will abide therein for aye. But those who have earned evil will have a reward like evil. Ignominy will cover their faces. No defender will they have from the wrath of Allah. Their faces will be covered as it were with portions from the depth of the darkness of night. They are companions of the fire. They will abide therein for aye. One day shall we gather them all together. Then shall we say to those who joined deities with us, to your place, we and those ye joined as partners, we shall separate them, and their partners shall say, it was not us that ye worshipped. Enough is the law for a witness between us and you. We certainly knew nothing of your worship of us. There will every soul prove the fruits of deeds it sent before. That they will be brought back to Allah, their rightful Lord, and their invented falsehoods, which will leave them in the lurch. Say, who is it that sustains you in life from the sky and from the earth? And who is it that has power over hearing and sight? And who is it that brings out the living from the dead and the dead from the living? And who is it that rules and regulates all affairs? They will soon say, Allah. Say, will you not then show piety to Allah? Such is Allah, your true cherisher and sustainer. Apart from the truth, what remains but error? How then are ye turned away? Thus is the word of thy Lord proved true against those who rebel. Verily they will not believe. Say, of your partners, can any originate creation and repeat it? Say, it is Allah who originates creation and repeats it. Then how are ye deluded away from the truth? Say, of your partners, is there any that can give any guidance towards truth? Say, it is Allah who gives guidance towards truth. Is then Allah who gives guidance to truth further worthy to be followed, or he who finds not guidance himself unless he is guided? What then is the matter with you? How judge ye? But most of them follow nothing but fancy. True fancy can be of no avail against truth. Truly, fancy can be of no avail against truth. Verily, Allah is well aware of all that they do. This Quran is not such as can be produced by other than Allah. On the contrary, it is a confirmation of revelations that went before it, and a fuller explanation of the book, wherein there is no doubt from the Lord of the worlds. Or do they say he forged it? Say, bring then a surah like unto it, and call to your aid anyone you can besides Allah, if it be ye speak the truth. Nay, they charge with falsehood all that whose knowledge they cannot compass, even before the elucidation thereof hath reached them. Thus did those before them make charges of falsehood, but see what was the end of those who did wrong. Of them there are some who believe therein, and some who do not, and thy Lord knoweth best those who are out for mischief. If they charge thee with falsehood, say, my work to me, and yours to you. Ye are free from responsibility for what I do, and I for you. I for what ye do. Amongst them are some who pretend to listen to thee, but canst thou make the deaf to hear, even though they are without understanding? And amongst them are some who look at thee, but canst thou guide the blind, even though they will not see? Verily, Allah will not deal unjustly with man in aught. It is man that wrongs his own soul. One day Allah will gather them together. It will be as if they had tarried but an hour of a day. They will recognize each other. Assuredly, those will be lost who deny the meeting with Allah and refuse to receive true guidance. Whether we show thee recognize in thy lifetime some part of what we promise them, or we take thy soul to our mercy before that, in any case to us is their return. Ultimately Allah is witness to all that they do. To every people was sent an apostle. When their apostle comes before them, the matter will be judged between them, and they will not be wronged. They say, when will this promise come to pass, if ye speak the truth? Say, I have no power over any harm or benefit to myself, except as Allah willeth. To every people is a term appointed. When their term is reached, not an hour can they cause delay, nor an hour can they advance in anticipation. Say, do ye see, if Allah's punishment should come to you by night or by day, what portion of it would the sinners wish to hasten? Would ye then believe in it? At last, when it actually cometh to pass, it will then be said, Ah, now, and ye wanted aforetime to hasten it on. At length will be said to the wrongdoers, taste ye the enduring punishment, ye get but the recompense of what ye earned. They seek to be informed by thee, is that true? Say, Aye, by my Lord, it is the very truth, and ye can concentrate, and ye cannot frustrate it. Every soul that hath sinned, if it possessed all that is on earth, would fain give it in ransom. They would declare their repentance when they see the penalty, but the judgment between them will be with justice, and no wrong will be done unto them. Is it not the case that to Allah belongeth whatever is in the heavens and on earth? Is it not the case that Allah's promise is assuredly true? Yet most of them understand not. It is Allah who giveth life, and who taketh it, and to Allah shall ye all be brought back. O mankind, there hath come to you a direction from your Lord, and a healing for the diseases in your hearts, and for those who believe a guidance and a mercy. In the bounty of Allah and in Allah's mercy, in that let them rejoice. That is better than the wealth they hoard. Say, see ye what things Allah hath sent down to you for sustenance, yet ye hold forbidden some things thereof, and some things lawful. Say, hath Allah indeed permitted you, or do ye invent things to attribute to Allah? And what think those who invent lies against Allah of the day of judgment? Verily Allah is full of bounty to mankind, but most of them are ungrateful. In whatever business thou mayest be, and whatever portion thou mayest be reciting from the Quran, and whatever deed ye mankind may be doing, ye are witnesses thereof, when ye are deeply engrossed therein. Nor is hidden from thy Lord so much as the weight of an atom of the earth or in heaven, and not the least and not the greatest of these things, but are recorded in a clear record. Behold, verily on the friends of Allah there is no fear, nor shall they grieve. Those who believe in certain constantly guard against evil, for them are glad tidings in the life of the present, and in the hereafter no change can there be in the words of Allah. That is indeed the supreme felicity. Let not their speech grieve thee, for all power and honor belong to Allah. It is Allah who heareth and knoweth all things. Behold, verily to Allah belongeth all creatures in the heavens and on earth. And do they follow the works as Allah's partners other than Allah? They follow nothing but fancy, and they do nothing but lying. Allah it is that hath made you the night, and that ye may rest therein, and the day to make things visible to you. Verily in this are signs for those who listen to Allah's message. They say, Allah hath begotten his son, glory be to Allah. Allah is self-sufficient. Allah are all things in the heavens and on earth. No warrant have ye for this. Say ye about Allah what ye know not. Say, those who invent a lie against Allah will never prosper. A little enjoyment in this world, and then to us will be their return, and then shall we make them taste the severest penalty for their blasphemies. Relate to them the story of Noah. And behold, he said to his people, O my people, if it be hard on your mind that I should stay with you and commemorate the signs of Allah, yet I put my trust in Allah. Get ye then an agreement about your plan and amongst your partners, so your plan be on to you dark and dubious. Then pass your sentence on me and give me no respite. But if ye turn back, consider no reward have I asked of you. My reward is only due from Allah, and I have been commanded to be of those who submit to Allah's will in Islam. They rejected Allah, but we delivered him and those with him in the ark, and we made them inherit the earth, whilst we overwhelmed in the flood those who rejected our signs. Then see what was the end of those who were named, but he did not. Then after him we sent many apostles to their pupils. They brought them clear signs, but they would not believe what they had already rejected beforehand. Thus do we seal the hearts of the transgressors. Then after them sent we Moshe and Aaron to Pharaoh and his chiefs, and with our signs. But they were arrogant, they were a people in sin. When the truth did come to them from us, they said, This is indeed evident sorcery. Said Moshe, Say ye this about the truth when it hath actually reached you? Is sorcery like this? But sorcerers will not prosper. They said, Hast thou come to us to turn us away from the ways we found our fathers following, in order that thou and thy brother may have greatness in the land? But now we shall believe in you. Said Pharaoh, Bring me every sorcerer well versed. So when the sorcerers came, Moshe said to them, Throw ye what ye wish to throw. When they had their throw, Moshe said, What ye have brought is sorcery. Allah will surely make it of no effect, for Allah prospereth not the work of those who make mischief. And Allah by Allah's words doth prove and establish Allah's truth, however much the sinners may hate it. But none believe in Moshe except some children of his people, because of the fear of Pharaoh and his chiefs, lest they should persecute them. And certainly Pharaoh was mighty on the earth, and one who transgressed all bounds. Moshe said, O my people, if ye do truly believe in Allah, then in Allah put your trust, if ye submit to your will to Allah's. They said, In Allah do we put our trust. Our Lord, make us not a trial for those who practice oppression, and deliver us by thy mercy from those who reject thee. We inspired Moshe and his brother with this message: Provide dwellings for your people in Egypt, make your dwellings into places of worship, and establish regular prayers, and give glad tidings to those who believe. Moshe prayed, Our Lord, thou hast indeed bestowed on Pharaoh and his chief splendor and wealth in the life of the present, and so, our Lord, they mislead men from the path. Deface, our Lord, the features of their wealth, and send hardness to their hearts, so they will not believe until they see the grievous penalty. Allah said, Accepted is your prayer, O Moshe and Aaron. So stand ye straight, and follow not the path of those who know not. We took the children of Israel across the sea. Pharaoh and his hosts followed them in his insolence and spite. At length, when overwhelmed with a flood, he said, I believe that there is no deity except Allah, whom the children of Israel believe in. I am of those who submit to Allah in Islam. It was said to him, now, but a little while before wast thou in rebellion, and thou didst mischief and violence. This day shall we save thee in the body, that thou mayest be assigned to those who come after thee. But verily many amongst mankind are heedless of our signs. We settled the children of Israel in a beautiful dwelling place, and provided for them sustenance of the best. It was after knowledge had been granted them that they fell into schisms. Verily Allah will judge between them as to the schisms about amongst them on the day of judgment. If thou wert in doubt as to what we have revealed unto thee, then ask those who have been reading the book from before thee. The truth that hath indeed come to thee from thy Lord, so be in no wise of those in doubt, nor be of those who reject the signs of Allah, or thou shalt be of those who perish. Those against whom the word of thy Lord hath been verified would not believe, even if every sign was brought unto them, until they see for themselves the penalty grievous. Why was there not a single township amongst those we warned which believed, so its faith should have benefited it, except the people of Yonah? When they believed, we removed from them the penalty of ignominy in the life of the present, and permitted them to enjoy their life for a while. If it had been thy Lord's will, they would have all believed, all who are on earth. Wilt thou not then compel mankind against their will to believe? No soul can believe except by the will of Allah, and Allah will place doubt or obscurity on those who will not understand. Say, behold, all that is in the heavens and on earth, but neither signs nor warners benefit those who believe not. Do they then expect anything but what happened in the days of the men who passed away before them? Say, wait ye then, for I too will wait with you. In the end we deliver our apostles and those who believe. Thus is it fitting on our part that we should deliver those who believe. Say, O ye men, if ye are in doubt as to my religion, behold, I worship not what ye worship other than Allah, but I worship Allah with who will take your souls at death. I am commanded to be in the ranks of the believers. And further, thus set thy face towards religion with true piety, and never in any wise be of the unbelievers, nor call on any other than Allah. Such will neither benefit thee nor hurt thee. If thou dost, behold, thou shalt certainly be of those who do wrong. If Allah do touch thee with hurt, there is none can remove it but Allah. If Allah do design some benefit for thee, there is none can keep it back. Allah's favor. Allah causeth it to reach whomsoever of Allah's servants Allah pleaseth, and Allah is the all-forgiving, most merciful. Say, O ye men, now truth hath reached you from your Lord. Those who receive guidance do so for the benefit of their own souls, and those who stray do so to their own loss, and I am not set over you to arrange your affairs. Follow thou the inspiration sent unto thee, and be patient and constant to Allah. Do decide, for Allah is best to decide. From Haudenosaunee de Guyana Shigoa, articles 99 a 117. The rites and festivals of each nation shall remain undisturbed, and shall continue as before, because they were given by the people of old times and as useful and necessary for the benefit of men. It shall be the duty of the masters of each brotherhood to confer at the approach of the time of the midwinter thanksgiving, and to notify their people of the approaching festival. They shall hold a council over the matter and arrange its details, and begin the thanksgiving 5 days after the moon of the Diskonoa is new. The people shall assemble at the appointed place, and the nephews shall notify the people of the time and the place. From the beginning to the end, the master shall preside over the thanksgiving and address the people from time to time. It shall be the duty of the appointed managers of the thanksgiving festivals to do all that is needful for carrying out the duties of the occasions. The recognized festivals of Thanksgiving shall be the midwinter Thanksgiving, the maple or sugar making Thanksgiving, the raspberry Thanksgiving, the strawberry Thanksgiving, the corn planting Thanksgiving, the corn hoeing Thanksgiving, the little festival of green corn, the great festival of ripe corn, and the complete Thanksgiving for the harvest. Each nation's festivals shall be held in their long houses. When the Thanksgiving for the green corn comes, the special managers, both the men and the women, shall give it careful attention and do their duties properly. When the ripe corn Thanksgiving is celebrated, the masters of the nation must give it the same attention as they give to the midwinter Thanksgiving. Whenever any man proves himself by his benevolent life and his knowledge of benevolent things, naturally fitted as a teacher of benevolent things, he shall be recognized by the masters as a teacher of peace and religion, and the people shall hear him. The installation song. The song utilized in installing the new master of the Confederacy shall be sung by Adadoro, and it shall be Huai Huai Agua Yi Wo Akanhe Wata Skawe Yesigoa Kongwa Wi Kon Yakon He Wata. Hi, hi, it is benevolent indeed. Hey ya, it is benevolent indeed, that a broom, a great wing, it is given me for a sweeping instrument. Whenever a person properly entitled desires to learn the pacification song, he is privileged to do so, but he must prepare a feast at which his teachers may sit with him and sing. The feast is provided that no misfortune may befall them for singing the song on an occasion when no chief is installed. A certain sign shall be known to all the people of the 5 nations, which shall denote that the owner or occupant of a house is absent. A stick or a pole in a slanting or leaning position shall indicate this and be the sign. Every person not entitled to enter the house by right of living within it, upon seeing such a sign, shall not approach the house either by day or by night, but shall keep as distantly away as his business will permit. At the funeral of a master of the Confederacy, say, now we become reconciled as you start away. You were once a lord of the 5 nations Confederacy, and the United People trusted you. Now we release you, for it is true that it is no longer possible for us to walk about together on the earth. Now therefore we lay it, the body here. We lay it away. Now then we say to you, persevere onward to the place where the Creator dwells in peace. Let not the things of the earth hinder you. Let nothing that transpired whilst yet you lived here hinder you. In hunting you once took delight. In the game of lacrosse you once took delight. And in the feasts and pleasant occasions your mind was amused. But now do not allow thoughts of these things to give you trouble. Let not your relatives hinder you, and also let not your friends and associates trouble your mind. Regard none of these things. Now then, in turn, you here present who were related to this man, and you who were his friends and associates, behold the path that is yours also. Soon we ourselves will be left in that place. For this reason, hold yourselves in restraint as you go from place to place. In your actions and in your conversation, do no idle thing. Speak not idle talk, neither gossip. Be careful of this, and speak not and do not give way to evil behavior. 1 year is the time that you must abstain from unseemly levity, but if you cannot do this for ceremony, 10 days is the time to regard these things for respect. Now we become reconciled as you start away. At the funeral of a war chief, say, now we become reconciled as you start away. You were once a war chief of the 5 nations Confederacy, and the United People trusted you as their guard from the enemy. The remainder is the same as this address at the funeral of a master. Now we release you, for it is true that it is no longer possible for us to walk about together on the earth. Now therefore that we lay it, the body here, we lay it away. Now then, We say to you, persevere onward to the place where the Creator dwells in peace. Let not the things of the earth hinder you. Let nothing that transpired whilst yet you lived hinder you. In hunting you once took delight. In the game of lacrosse you once took delight. And in the feast and pleasant occasions your mind was amused. But now do not allow thoughts of these things to give you trouble. Let not your relatives hinder you, and also let not your friends and associates trouble your mind. Regard none of these things. Now then, in turn, you here present who were related to this man, and you who were his friends and associates, behold the path that is yours also. Soon we ourselves will be left in that place. For this reason, hold yourselves in restraint, and as you go from place to place. In your actions and in your conversation, do no idle things. Speak no idle talk, neither gossip. Be careful of this, and speak not, and do not give way to evil behavior. 1 year is the time that you must abstain from unseemly levity, but if you cannot do this for ceremony, 10 days is the time to regard these things for respect. At the funeral of a warrior, say, now we become reconciled as you start away. Once you were a devoted provider and protector of your family, and you were ever ready to take part in battles for the 5 Nations Confederacy. The United People trusted you. Now we release you, for it is true that it is no longer possible for us to walk about together on the earth. Now therefore we lay it, the body here we lay it away. Now then we say to you, persevere onward to the place where the Creator dwells in peace. Let none of the things of the earth hinder you. Let nothing that transpired whilst yet you lived hinder you. In hunting you once took delight. In the game of lacrosse you once took delight. And in the feasts and pleasant occasions your mind was amused. But now do not allow thoughts of these things to give you trouble. Let not your relatives hinder you, and also let not your friends and associates trouble your mind. Regard none of these things. Now then, in turn, you here present who were related to this man, and you who are his friends and associates, behold the path that is yours also. Soon we ourselves will be left in that place. For this reason, hold yourselves in restraint as you go from place to place. In your actions and in your conversation, do no idle things, speak not idle talk, neither gossip, but be careful of this, and speak not and do not give way to evil behavior. 1 year is the time that you must abstain from unseemly levity, but if you cannot do this for ceremony, 10 days is the time to regard these things for respect. At the funeral of a young man, say, now we become reconciled as you start away. In the beginning of your career you are taken away, and the flower of your life is withered away. Now we release you, for it is true that it is no longer possible for us to walk about together on the earth. Now therefore we lay it, the body here we lay it away. Now then we say to you, persevere onward to the place where the Creator dwells in peace. Let not the things of the earth hinder you. Let nothing that transpired whilst yet you lived hinder you. In hunting you once took delight. In the game of lacrosse you once took delight. And in the feasts and pleasant occasions your mind was amused. But now do not allow thoughts of these things to give you trouble. Let not your relatives hinder you, and also let not your friends and associates trouble your mind. Regard none of these things. Now then, in turn, you here present who were related to this man, and you who are his friends and associates, behold the path that is also yours. Soon we ourselves will be left in that place. For this reason, hold yourselves in restraint as you go from place to place. In your actions and in your conversation, do no idle things. Speak not idle talk, neither gossip. Be careful of this, and speak not and do not give way to evil behavior. 1 year is the time that you must abstain from unseemly levity, but if you cannot do this for ceremony, 10 days is the time to regard these things for respect. At the funeral of a chief woman, say, now we become reconciled as you start away. You were once a chief woman in the 5 Nations Confederacy. You once were more of the nations. Now we release you, for it is true that it is no longer possible for us to walk about together on the earth. Now therefore we lay it, the body here, we lay it away. Now then we say to you, persevere onward to the place where the Creator dwells in peace. Let not the things of the earth hinder you. Let nothing that transpired whilst you lived hinder you. Looking after your family was a sacred duty, and you were faithful. You were one of the many joint heirs of the mastership titles. Feastings were yours, and you had pleasant occasions. Now then, in turn, you here present who were related to this woman, and you who were her friends and associates, behold the path that is yours also. Soon we ourselves will be left in that place. For this reason, hold yourselves in restraint as you go from place to place. In your actions and in your conversation, do no idle thing. Speak not idle talk, neither gossip. Be careful of this, and speak not, and do not give way to evil behavior. 1 year is the time that you must abstain from unseemly levity. But if you cannot do this for ceremony, 10 days is the time to regard these things for respect. Now we become reconciled. At the funeral of a woman of the people, say, now we become reconciled as you start away. You were once a woman in the flower of life, and the bloom is now withered away. You once held a sacred position as a Moor of the nation. Looking after your family was a sacred duty, and you were faithful. Feastings were yours, and you had pleasant occasions. Your mind was amused, but now do not allow those thoughts of these things to give you trouble. Let not your relatives hinder you, and also let not your friends and associates trouble your mind. Regard none of these things. Now then, in turn, you here present who were related to this woman, and you who were her friends and associates, behold the path that is yours also. Soon we ourselves will be left in that place. For this reason, hold yourselves in restraint as you go from place to place. In your actions and in your conversation, do no idle thing. Speak not idle talk, neither gossip. Be careful of this, and speak not, and do not give way to evil behavior. 1 year is the time that you must abstain from unseemly levity, but if you cannot do this for a ceremony, 10 days is the time to regard these things for respect. At the funeral of an infant or young woman, say, now we become reconciled as you start away. You were a tender bud and gladdened our hearts for only a few days. Now the bloom has withered away. Let none of these things that transpired on earth hinder you. Let nothing that happened whilst you lived here hinder you. And also regard none of these things. Now then, in turn, you here present who were related to this woman, and you who were her friends and associates, behold, the path is yours also. Soon we ourselves will be left in that place. For this reason, hold yourselves in restraint as you go up from place to place. In your actions and in your conversation, do no idle thing. Speak not idle talk, neither gossip. Be careful of this, and speak not, and do not give way to evil behavior. 1 year is the time that you must abstain from unseemly levity. But if you cannot do this for ceremony, 10 days is the time to regard these things for respect. When an infant dies within 3 days, grieving shall continue only 5 days. Then shall you gather the little boys and girls at the house of grieving, and at the funeral feast a speaker shall address the children and bid them be happy once further, though by a death gloom has been cast over them. Then shall the black clouds roll away, and the sky shall show blue once further. Then shall the children be again in soleil-shine. When a dead person is brought to the burial place, the speaker on the opposite side of the council fire shall bid the bereaved family cheer their minds once again, and rekindle their hearth fires in peace, to put their house in order and once again be in brightness, for darkness has covered them. He shall say that the black clouds shall roll away, and that the bright blue sky is visible once further. Therefore shall they be in peace, and they be in peace in the soleil shine again. 3 strings of shell, 1 span in length, shall be employed in addressing the assemblage at the burial of the dead. The speaker shall say, Hearken, you who are here, this body is to be covered. Assemble in this place again 10 days hence, for it is the decree of the Creator that grieving shall cease when 10 days have expired. Then shall a feast be made. Then at the expiration of 10 days, the speaker shall say, Continue to listen, you who are here. The 10 days of grieving have expired, and your minds must now be freed of sorrow, and before the loss of the relative. The relatives have decided to make a little compensation to those who have assisted at the funeral. It is a mere expression of thanks. This is to the one who did the cooking whilst the body was lying in the house. Let her come forward and receive this gift, and be dismissed from the task. In substance, this shall be repeated for everyone who assisted in any way, until all have been remembered. Alhamdulillah, Ar-Rahmani Ar-Rahim, Allah Wabha, Dao Ka Dao, Fe Chong Dao, Ming Ka Ming, Fe Chong Ming, Ja Rastafari, Deus nos de Kies in Chile Santo Fakito Namatum, Vahe Guru Satnam, Baluchata Elohim, Elohim Melech Alam, Ashikasano, Bamizotav Tzivan, the Sok Brevai Torah, Amen. Baluchata Elohim, Elohim Melech Alam, Bare Puriagafen, Amen. Kyrie eleison, Sivomastu Save Jagatahim, Save Sata Bavantu Sukitata, Fagabiem, Aqua Ba Upendo Na Amani, Fakiri in the Salami, Chinta Dam Perme, Libo Me Mumjikam, Ubuntu Shubana Fakithka. Shashem, Kamosanida, Domo Arigato, Pelama Yellow Wokan Tako, Tako Lokushingo, and Gomanagan. God, we thank you for all your blessings. Ata Jami Yat Afanami. Bado. I hope. Shanti, 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 Amen. Namaste, Assalamu Alaikum, Shalom. Mir, Jai Janendran, Satnam. Zaijen, adios, Che Chaklis, Sayonara. Meta Samadhi, Eshwasol, Agape Kirini, Esimpe Nasamuje, Kelo Ufred. Love, peace, happiness, liberation.